morning. This is Eva Earhart here from Global Gardener. This morning I'm going to prune a garden. It's hot already, it's 7 o'clock in the morning and the sweat is dripping here in the tropics. I'm going to show you a few tools that we're going to use. We probably all think about the secateurs. These are perfect for smaller branches. Make sure that it fits your hand. I find a lot of secateurs are made for men, so the reach is just too wide. So I have found myself a smaller secateurs that my hands can easily reach, because if you use this all day and you have to reach your hands to grab the handles, soon your hands and your wrist and all your arm is going to ache. So make sure you have a pair of secateurs that fit your hand. Secondly, I have a pair of manual hedge clippers. Sure, you can get electric hedge clippers, which are great, also petrol driven ones, but I find for smaller shrubs, and in this garden there is not that many smaller shrubs that need manual hedge clipping. These are perfect, very sharp, good workout for your shoulders, so you don't need to go to the gym today after using one of these. And of course you would only use these for shrubs with new shoots and soft branches. They are not made for larger branches, we say larger than my little finger. Second tool is a pair of loppers. So you use them for larger branches, probably the size of my fingers. The different types of loppers. These are pointy and very handy to get into small places. But these are extension loppers. They are wonderful, especially for people who are short like me and you can't reach. You extend, and I can reach really high and cut the branches high up. So they're a really good investment. Of course, when you work high up, you can't do that for long because of the shoulders, but they're really handy. Now the tools that you get don't need to be very expensive. I would say bottom to middle range for a home gardener. If you're professional, that's a different story. When I had a professional landscaping and garden design business, I did quite a bit of professional pruning, and then of course my tools had to be a little bit more upmarket, that be able to do the distance. However, for home gardeners, these tools should last you for several years. Now this is second pair of loppers. They look a little bit different. You can see how it's a bit more blunt, but it's very strong. It's got like a leverage system, so I can open them up quite large and take larger branches. So they do come very handy. The downside is I need a lot of room. So if it's a tight shrub or small tree, if it's difficult to get in, I have to use the next tool up, the pruning saw. So when you choose your tools in the garden, not only do you have to think about the size of the branches you're cutting, but also the access. This little pruning saw is ideal. I can fold it up for safety and then use it in those little areas where it's difficult to get in. It's very sharp. It's wonderful. It's probably one of the better tools that I have. And when you use that, it doesn't damage the tree or the branches as much as with a pair of loppers. When you've got large loppers and large branches, you can actually compress the wood and the cambium, making physical damage. So pruning tool is a lot better. What about if you have a real large branch? Then we go one size up. Brand new saw. Now this curved saw, they've got quite large teeth. So with the large teeth, it can do a good job on just about any size branch. Of course, we're not chopping down trees. That's a completely different job. And I think professional tree loppers should do that. They've got their insurance, they've got their equipment, they've got their expertise. But as a home gardener, this is probably the largest piece of equipment that you need. So a little bit later, we are going to look at techniques of pruning. So why do we prune our plants? Several reasons. One is to reshape them. Maybe they have grown tall and lanky, or they're growing too much over one side because they're not getting enough light. So we are reshaping them. Another reason is to reduce height. Especially after a big rain event or a hot summer, the plants can get quite tall and out of shape, and we want to reduce the height. Another reason is removing pest and disease. It's definitely the optimal way to get rid of pest and disease instead of spraying toxic chemicals. So not only the toxic chemicals are toxic for bees and insects, but it's also toxic for us. So if it's got pest and disease, remove it with pruning. However, we have to wait with pruning. This beautiful bottle brush is flowering, even though I'm pruning the rest of the garden, not touching that one, not until after it's flowering. So ideally, you might want to prune the whole garden in one hit. Of course, you can prune this, but you'll be removing the flowers, and the native birds love the nectar in the bottle brushes, in the Australian callistemon. Also lots of bees and insects in there. I'm going to leave that. Another reason for pruning is to encourage leaf growth. It's quite interesting. You have to remove to gain. So pruning not only encourages new leaf growth, it also encourages flowering. So that's really interesting, is you are rejuvenating the plant. Depending on your climate, in the tropics we prune twice a year, early summer and then after summer, after the wet season. It would be the same in the subtropics. If you're in a cold climate, warm temperate, cold temperate, it's very likely you'll be pruning in autumn, and then the plant is dormant all throughout the winter, and then it comes into new growth. Or you would prune just as spring is beginning and get the plant ready for a new season of growth and give you lots of enjoyment. Now this tree is a Caliandra. It grows quite quickly. It's in an umbrella shape, so it's wonderful for partial shade for all the understory plants. And the birds love the flowers, little pink and white pom-poms, very bird attractive. However, this plant is quite high maintenance. See all this new growth? You get all these new growth from all the nodes inside the branches. Looks fairly untidy. That's where the secateurs come in. So I'm going to remove all this new growth. Otherwise, these branches in a short time, by next year, they will be 2 and 3 meters long. And the wood in this tree, it is so hard, not nice to work with at all. So I'm going to cut with the secateurs and then give it a completely new makeover. So while this growth is very young, it's very soft. So it's very quick, and the reason why I don't just tear it off, I will tear and damage the bark. We don't want to do that because that's when we attract pests and insects. So now I have cleaned the branch and the whole stem of the plant. And what's interesting with plants, it's not only the foliage or the flower that's attractive, also the bark. So now we can see this clean bark, and we can also see all the understory plants and sort of opening up the area under the tree. So there's lots of different reasons why we prune and different techniques, and in the end we get a completely rejuvenated garden.